All right, so the topic of this lesson is simply how to graph quickly. I know that the worksheet says it's to find the zeros by graphing, but before you can find zeros by graphing, I just need to make sure that you can graph. The easiest way to graph is with a table. This is for anything. For these easy equations that we have here, these easy functions, or if you have really complicated things, making a table is always your first step. And a table doesn't have to be some big complicated thing. It's just x's and y's. You get to pick the x's, and you're going to find out what the y is. The easiest x's to pick to start out with are 0, 1, and 2. Well, sometimes -1 also. So for this one, I'll just put 0, 1, 2, and then in the next example, I'll do -1, 0, 1. If I plug in to this function, so this says that y equals 2. If I plug in 0 for x into the function y equals 2, is there anywhere for that 0 to go? Is there anywhere to put an x? Is there an x there? No. So it's just 2. So that means that this answer is going to be 2. Is there anywhere to plug in the number 1? No. So that means that the y is still 2. There's nowhere to plug 2 either, so the y is still 2. No matter what we put here, no matter what number you plug in for x, the answer for y is always 2 for this equation. So then we graph this. We graph 0, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2. Connect them with a line. And there's our graph. Since you're going to be doing these questions on your own paper, in your own graph paper, if you look at these graphs, they're only 5 by 5. At most, you probably only need to go 5 positive, 5 negative for x and for y. And then you should be able to answer these questions on your own graph paper. Number 2, we're going to make a table. -1, 0, 1. You get to pick the x's. You can put anything for x. Then we put the x where x is in the equation. So this is -3 times x, which is -1 plus 2. It looks like I might have wanted some more room, but this is going to be a negative times a negative, so that's 3 plus 2, which is 5. -3 times 0 plus 2. 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. -3 times 1 plus 2. So that's -3 plus 2, which is -1. So the numbers I'm going to put down are -1 goes with 5. 0 goes with 2. 1 goes with -1. Done. For number 3, it says that f of x equals 3. That means the same thing as y equals 3. So that means no matter what I put for x, y is always going to be 3 for this equation. So let's just put some dots on 3. The reason why we're connecting these with a line is because these equations say that there's a function and you're going to plug in an x. X can be any real number. X can be any real number. And remember how earlier we were doing, at the very start of 8th grade year, we did this box where you have the real numbers, and then inside the real numbers you have the rationals, the irrational, you have the integers, and all that. So we can plug in rationals or irrationals for x. We can plug in whole numbers or natural numbers for x. You can plug in decimals, you can plug in fractions. Since you can plug in any possible thing for x, that means that this graph for x does not have a single space. There is no empty spaces on the x-axis where you can't plug in a number. If there was an empty space where all of a sudden you couldn't plug in that x, like if I could not plug in this one, if I could not plug in x equals 1, then the graph would look like this. There would be a hole, but that's something we're going to deal with in higher math, but I'm just trying to show, since you can plug in anything for x, decimals or whole numbers, this graph is going to be connected with a line and not dots. I'll do 2 more examples. 4 looks good. We're going to make a table. -1, 0, 1. Plug those in. 2 times -1 minus 1. -2 minus 1 is -3. 2 times 0 minus 1 is -1. 2 times 1 minus 1 is 1. So our first one is -1, -3, 0, -1, 1, 1. Connect those with a line. Done. I'll do the word problem. We get this thing, it has this function, d equals 20 minus 1.95c. It seems like d is the y. D is the same thing as y equals, and c is going to be the same thing as x. Make a graph. So let's make a table. Y is equal to 20 minus 1.95c. We get to pick the x's. In this graph, it's a pretty big graph, so I'm not going to pick just numbers that are completely next to each other, even though I could. I'm going to pick 0, 1, and 10. 0, 1, 10. You get to pick your x's, so you can pick different numbers. You can pick 0, 1, 2, 3 if you want, but I'm going to do 0, 1, 10. If I plug in 0, that's 20 minus 1.95 times 0, which is just going to be 20, because 1.95 times 0 is going to make 0. 20 minus 1.95 times 1 is 20 minus 1.95, which is 18.05. 20 minus 1.95 times 10. So this times 10 is going to move the decimal place 1 time, which we learned whenever we're doing scientific notation. So this is 20 minus 19.5, which is going to leave us with 0.5, or just 0.5. So my dots are 0, 20, 1, 18.05, and 10.5. Connect these with a line, sorry.